Now, thankfully, the Alliance for Natural Health USA division has put together a major play to work against this, because in the Senate, they have not adopted this yet. There's an equivalent bill in the Senate. As you know, these things go. And that bill, Senate Bill 3217, is called the Restoring American Financial Stability Act. Now, if you want me to comment on that, oh my gosh, is it going to restore American financial stability? No, until we audit the Federal Reserve and find out what the heck they're doing. Printing paper out of thin air and saying, well, everybody's good now, just spread it around to all our friends. And of course, the people that touch that money last are the ones that get hosed the worst, because that money becomes worth less and less the more it circulates throughout the world and the United States economy. And it's likely, even though the Senate has not put this provision in, the Waxman provision, Senator Rockefeller, another Democrat in West Virginia, is likely to offer an amendment that would include the Waxman language, which would give broad new authority to the Federal Trade Commission and wipe out what little health freedom we have left. Now, my dear friend, I've quoted him. He's written a book, The Rise of Tyranny, as well as Global Censorship of Health Information. Jonathan Emord, involved in suing the FDA right now to allow selenium manufacturers to actually acknowledge the peer-reviewed scientific medical journals and what they say about preventing cancer. He says here that the provision removing the ban on FTC rulemaking without congressional pre-approval contained in H.R. 4173 invites the very same irresponsible over-regulation of the commercial marketplace that led Congress to enact the ban in the 1980s. You know, when Reagan was actually saying, hey, let's roll back some of these regulations, let freedom come back.
Right.
We already know the FTC, how powerful they are. I mean, they've got no shortage of power to regulate deceptive advertising, but what they want to do is regulate truthful advertising about dietary supplements that can actually prevent, remove, or reverse disease, because that's the exclusive domain of those who lobbied Congress with the most amount of money, and that is the pharmaceutical industrial complex. So does the FTC need more discretionary power? No. It's only going to invite greater abuse and mischief from an agency that basically there's no check on its discretion. And its abuse of the people is legendary. Legendary. There are simply people that have, basically they read the Bible, they find out the supplements do it, they go into business, and the FTC goes after them like a company called Daniel chapter 1. And, they believe, as it's written in the Bible, that let your, basically the herbs are the gifts of the Creator. And they let everybody know it. And because they have that belief and they actually act on that belief and their labels reflect that belief, the federal government, in the guise of the FTC, is already attacking them, trying to find them, put them out of business. This is not an American ideal. I believe Waxman is so far out of what any original understanding of what America is supposed to be.
Exactly.
But again, there we go, the Hollywood leftists. They'd throw them out in a second if they knew this. Maybe, maybe not. But they're all on pharmaceutical drugs now, too. If you notice, in the past some years, it isn't the illicit drugs killing off the Hollywood leftists. It's the pharmaceutical drugs. They're taking 1, 2, 3, 5, 10, and, even if you were to argue the FDA is necessary, the very fact that doctors can prescribe more than one drug at a time, it should cause pause for everybody here, because those drugs may have been tested, I'll maybe say inadequately, but let's say they've been tested adequately. They have never been tested in combinations in which many doctors are basically doling them out, prescribing them out. Or in the over-the-counter market, you're going into your retailer and grabbing 5, 10 different drugs that have never been tested together, ever. And so at that point, you become a grand experiment, your own experiment. You're not even having to get an investigational review board together. You just start experimenting on yourself. And it's okay, because these drugs are all FDA approved, of course, never tested together. You see how the disconnect here, the cognitive dissonance on these drugs is so ridiculous. Yet nutrients have been working together for as long as there's been life on planet Earth. We've required nutrients, and they work very well together synergistically. You don't need human-controlled, placebo-controlled human clinical trials to determine that vitamins, minerals, and trace minerals and herbs are fine to be ingested.
True.
And, of course, we acknowledge that stupid people may over-ingest them and get harmed, but even smart people that take the drugs according to the prescription could be killed. The danger is with Henry Waxman and his ilk. They're plainly delusional authoritarians, seemingly incapable of shedding their cognitive dissonance on the danger of drugs and the safety of supplements. Is it really so difficult, Henry, to recognize that an FDA-approved death is still a death? Do you even care? And therefore, we must promote a culture of life that is devoid of people like Henry Waxman, who seemingly think that drugs are nutrients and nutrients are dangerous drugs. And he is absolutely delusional. In the meantime, Henry Waxman pays no attention to the cold and allergy medicines recalled by the FDA. A voluntary recall. Notice how when the drugs cause injury and death, it's voluntary. But when they went after ephedra, no volunteering about it, even though the people that were really harmed by it pretty much abused it. But for 40 over-the-counter drugs, including, hey, we covered this, Tylenol, number one reason why Americans check into the hospital, and many don't check out, for liver failure. Tylenol, Motrin, they supposedly did meet quality control standards, Michael. It's interesting about this, but what quality control standards are there when they can already be causing tens of thousands of deaths due to their proper use?
Just further proof that liberals do not want people to empower themselves with natural medicine.
Of course, McNeil Consumer Healthcare said in a statement Friday that this recall is not being undertaken on the basis of adverse medical events. Oh, well, maybe it should be. Yeah, they ignore the fact that people are dying. That doesn't matter. And even FDA Commissioner Margaret Hamburg, a big pharma stooge, came in and recommended in a statement Saturday saying, well, we want to be certain consumers discontinue using these products, though she called the chance of serious health problems remote. At the same time, you've got Kathleen Sebelius, the head of HHS, saying, well, we don't want people to get the impression that they shouldn't be taking these products, right? Because they don't want to, tap into these drug sales or so. I mean, this is crazy because the double standard is so unbelievably ridiculous here that when a drug causes harm, it's a voluntary withdrawal. As I said, if somebody, gets a hangnail from a dietary supplement, of course, impossible, but if it were to happen, there's no volunteer about it. It's pulled from the market.
It's insane.
And that's because of people like Henry Waxman who don't believe Americans should be free to choose the health care that they believe is right for them. They think we're all a bunch of drug slaves, and if we don't think we are, we're supposed to be, and we got to get in line, and Waxman's going to make sure the FTC has the authority to basically destroy what is left of health freedom in America.
Where can we read more?
If our Savage Nation listeners want to do something about it, I've got a link up at my blog. You can check that out, as always, at robertscottbell.blogspot.com. Michael, I always appreciate the opportunity to let loose on a message that's very important to me and, of course, you as well, the freedom to heal.
Well, thanks for the report, Robert. Savage.